Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker?
It's good to see you. Listen,
You're a Bitcoin maximalist. You're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together, I know we can find them.
Down in competition in the ratings tab for late night weekend viewers.
Hey everybody, welcome to Rob Nelson Live, Friday night edition. Thanks for watching, whatever time it is for you. For me, it's East Coast time. I'm in Puerto Rico. Flew into Puerto Rico today. Actually left Nashville at 3 a.m. to get to the airport. Long trip down to the Caribbean. You know, I flew Spirit Airways. I like Spirit, by the way. Spirit got a bad rap. Spirit's actually kind of a great airline. The flight attendants are really nice. Planes are all brand new. And if you fly like the big front seat, now they call it Spirit First, you basically get a full-size first-class airline seat for not a whole lot of money. And they give you like free drinks and whatever, and treat you really nice. It was interesting. I was thinking about it. I fly all the time. I've yet to be on a flight where the mayhem breaks out. You know, like I saw another story this week about a plane. You know, it's like every week there's another thing where something happens on a plane. Somebody goes crazy. This was two women who were like screaming at each other. I didn't even watch the whole thing. It's like somebody loses their shit, basically, either at the flight attendants or another passenger, or it's somebody sitting next to them, you know, and it's everything from the crazy white lady who was like convinced, remember her? And she was convinced, I wondered if the whole thing was a setup. She was convinced that the other passenger was like evil and there was evil on the plane. And then she got all this press and she kind of hid. She was like an ad exec or something. And she kind of was like suddenly all over the news and sort of disappeared and then came back and said, yeah, I kind of just had a breakdown in there. But it's like every week. This was two black women, you know. I got to say, I'm going to get in trouble, but whatever. Let's start the Friday. It's Friday night. Are people watching on Friday night? Are you drinking? Are you taking a break? And I'm not saying this because I'm a racist, because I'm not. The minute you say you're not a racist, you are. It seems like there's more like black people that do it than white people. Now, that's just my perception. But I think in general, since the BLM, the Black Lives Matter thing, I think more black people felt really like entitled and empowered to tell everybody to F off, especially to tell white people. But to tell anybody, I mean, I'll be honest. You know, like the worst situations I get in are if it's running up against a black woman who's like annoyed at me for something or something I'm asking her or doing or whatever. It's like white dude. And it's sort of like, don't mess with me. And I think we live in an age of entitlement. So I'm not saying it's black people. There's an entitlement. Younger people feel entitled. If I'm breaking it down, I would say older black men feel entitled because they got screwed the longest. In that department. And I think overall, I do sense a sense of like a short thing. You know, it's always been a joke. I spent a lot of time working in inner city communities. You know, this is why somebody says you're a racist, Rob, I'm gonna be like, go F yourself, like whatever. I basically adopted kids, you know, under my wing. I used to go into the projects in DC, which were horrible then, you know, 15, 20 years ago. They're still horrible today. The violence, the epidemic of violence and gun violence in there. And I go to my motorcycle and work with all these like young teenage, you know, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, 15. And the older kids, the 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they used to, that's how I call the 20-year-olds kids. You can do that when you're my age. Used to look and I'd be like, why do they leave me alone? I'm literally in the middle of the hood, the ghetto. And they were like, they think you're a cop. Because I have the kids sitting on my motorcycle. They'd be putting my helmet on. Anyway, I don't have a racist bone in my body, but I will identify behaviors that I see that are consistent. People can get mad at me. I don't care. It's like when people say like, you know, like there's the whole stereotypes. We all have them. There's stereotypes about white guys like me who are wasps. There's stereotypes about Jews. You know, there's stereotypes about men, stereotypes about women, stereotypes about gay people, and stereotypes about black people and Asian people and Chinese people. And the Chinese have stereotypes about the Koreans, and the Koreans have stereotypes about the Japanese. So it even goes within like the Asian cultures. And they all got stereotypes about whites and blacks. So I just think it's the nature of it, you know? I mean, it's like, again, go to most restaurants and ask wait servers, white, black, whatever color, who are the worst tippers overall in general. If you're going to generalize, they'll be like black people. I'll say it. The black people will say it. So again, now I'm saying something you're not supposed to say. Oh, cancel Rob. Well, no, this is the whole point. We got to be able to say stuff, and we got to be able to talk about it, even if they're uncomfortable conversations. I mean, I had these conversations in Jacksonville where I brought together, sidebar, but I'll weave my way back, don't worry, where I brought together, this was during the end of the pandemic, but we could get away with a little more in Florida. I left LA, gone to Florida, but I brought together, and Jacksonville's a big city. People don't realize how big it is population-wise. It's big. It's like the 10th or 11th biggest city in the U.S., and it's very much black and white divided. Has a lot of racial tensions, and it always has. Goes way back. I mean, white people effed up super like middle-class black communities back in the day to prevent them from succeeding, like a Tulsa-like thing, you know, Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's not good. And I brought together students. Well, first I brought together cops and law enforcement and black activists over the BLM stuff. And then I brought together students and cops and adults to like talk about the conditions of both black and white and how people felt. But I will say this. I will say, working with, you know, the variety of people that I put in front of me on the microphone, I had some amazing stories. And one of my favorites was I was talking to a Black Lives activist, and I asked him if there'd been a guy with a knife and yelling at the cops, and the cops shot him. It was all, again, you know, unfair to shoot the guy. It wasn't. He was going to stab the cop, whatever. And I asked this guy, what would you do if I came at you with a knife? He's like, I wouldn't shoot you. And he was sitting next to his girlfriend, and she kind of looking at him, shaking her head like, don't go there. He's like, I wouldn't shoot you. It's like, yeah, come on. I'm coming at you with a knife. I'm a white dude. I wouldn't shoot you. Really? I'm like, I call you, I say you're like a jerk and an idiot. I'm going to F you up. It's like, he was a big guy. He was a former football player. It's like, I wouldn't shoot you. I'm like, I call you the N-word. He literally, and she doesn't want him to take the bait. He goes, I'd fucking kill you. That was funny. Point is, we all know it. We all know it's there. The problem is not what color people are. It's the violence. There was a Sunday, a Louisiana white 17-year-old girl driving with friends or people, got in a road rage incident with a 54-year-old dude who was also driving, and they were tailgating each other. So they were having this tailgate kind of thing, you know, braking, tailgating, braking, tailgating, and they, you know, you go in front and slow down and speed up and slow down, speed up. And the black dude, 54 years old, pulled out a gun and shot into the car, hit the girl who was a passenger, 17 years old, pregnant. She died. They delivered the baby prematurely by cesarean, and the baby lived. This is a screwed up world we're living in. There's so much insane, crazy violence, which brings me to the shooting in Minnesota, which is still news and still going on. And I went through it the other day about how I just think we put the focus on the shooting when it's kids and when it's, well, when it's kids, when it's in a church, when it's in a school, as I said, when it's in a school and a church together, and the kids are praying in the pews, it's going to really hit a button. And I'm not minimizing it. 2 kids died. That's too many. 14 in a hospital. It's 14 too many. But as I said, the level of violence that goes on in inner city communities every day, in our urban communities, and more in our rural communities, it's just less populated, is astronomical. And it's numbing. It's just continual, perpetual, and it has been since I was getting involved in inner city working with kids a couple decades ago. It's horrible, and it's not letting up. So, you know, I don't think this is something to overlook, but it's getting all this news again because the kids were shot in a Catholic school in a praying. The part I want to focus on tonight is not that and the aftermath of that and the endless battle we're going to have over guns and more gun control and gun reform. It's a sidebar thing. Amy Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota, was on NPR. Remember National Public Radio, the one that's getting defunded? Now they're going to try to fund themselves, by the way. They're going to get private funding to do it. Let's see if the wealthy liberals pony up. The billionaire class, go ahead. You guys can fund NPR all by yourself. Any one of you uber rich billionaires could just fund NPR for the next 5, 10 years. Easy, no problem. Actually, give it more funding. But the host, Alyssa Chang, is interviewing Senator Klobuchar, and Senator Klobuchar keeps referring to the shooter as a he. And so the host clarifies that she's been misgendered. That the gender of this shooter is not clear, which gender she chooses or how she wishes to be identified. So, anyways, Klobuchar, Democratic senator, getting beat up on for misgendering, mispronouncing. Where did these words even come from? Mispronouncing. I mispronounced you. I used your inappropriate pronouns. First of all, the person's dead. The shooter's dead. Robin is dead. Robert is dead. Robert, who's now Robin. Robin, who was Robert, is dead. Not around anymore to say, except that they filed legally to have their name changed because they identified as a woman 5 years ago. So I would guess that would suggest how this person identified as a she. I wish you would call her a she. But the misgendering, mispronouncing, her, him, them, they, it's just too much. And again, why this obsessive focus on identity? It's the part I don't get, the obsessive focus on identity. The other sidebar to this is that Senator Klobuchar, I don't know why I keep wanting to call her doctor, Senator Klobuchar described the shooter as having, quote, all-purpose hate, unquote, not just against one group, one ideology, which is true, anti-Jew, anti-Semitic, anti-Black, anti-religion, I don't know, he was anti-white people too, I don't know, anti-men, I don't even know the other antis that were in there. Those were 3. And it's like all-purpose hate. Well, I want to ask everybody something. Why is this all-purpose hate? Hate is all-purpose hate. I don't know where we've gotten this notion. If you go after Black people, you're a white, like crazy white nationalist type. That's not all-purpose hate. If you go after Jews, that's not all-purpose hate. If you go after white people, well, that gets a pass. Like, we don't even want to talk about that as if like you can't target white people. And obviously people do. Violence is targeted at white people too from other groups. But why is one all-purpose hate and the other is not? Hate is all-purpose hate. Very little hatred, very little ideological hatred, religious hatred, gender hatred, racial hatred is based on anything really substantive other than how you've been brought up and fear and all-purpose hate. So could we stop looking for the specific motive that the person had, whether it's on the right or the left? When the shooter's a conservative quack, the left wants to find the motives. When it's a transgender, man became identifying as a woman, the left wants to bury the manifesto and the right wants it out. What is the point? We want to understand what led them to do it. Really? Do you not understand that you're never going to understand what led them to do it? You're not going to understand what led them to do it because it doesn't make sense. This is sheer irrational hatred, fear, people feeling distanced, separated. It's always been the same since the Columbine shootings. The kids in Colorado who went in and shot their classmates, like the first real school shooting. They were isolated. They felt bullied. Okay. Kids have felt bullied and isolated for all eternity. I don't know. I didn't live for all eternity. So let me qualify that. I'm older. My entire lifetime, I know kids felt that way. And I know my dad said kids felt that way. And I know people bullied and humiliated people in colleges and high schools for at least 200 years, probably way back in the day, probably the early Patriot days, but certainly, in the last 150 years, people have been getting bullied. There's stories about it. There's books, there's novels, there's characters. It's not something new. And even like, if you want to go back to the 90s, you had the high school, Mean Girls kind of thing. This is not new that people were ostracized and bullied. What's new is they go in and shoot their classmates dead. That's the new part. What do you need to understand about this? What drove Robin to go do this. Hatred. And you don't need to understand the source of the hatred. You need to understand the specific type. It was hatred for blanks. Well, in this case, it was hatred for blanks and blanks and blanks. You don't need to understand the type. You need to understand what is causing us to be so angry and hateful as a society. And that's where an interesting conversation can go. And that's where a lot of the people who want gun violence stopped and think we should not have guns, people on the left, progressives, are really guilty of stirring up enormous hatred and encouraging people. And I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of the Gaza protest. I'm not saying what's happening to Gaza is okay. The Palestinians are getting screwed. But this notion of, the American students marching around, with their beats on and chanting, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, global infantada. Like, seriously? You know what you're talking about? First of all, you don't, because you're talking about wiping out the Jews and you're talking about an extermination campaign, and you're identifying with an organization, a group that would actually not respect your rights at all unless you were a heterosexual man. But the whole idea, you're stirring up a level of violence, it's astronomical, the language of it all. So let's start with that. Okay, a little lighter. A little lighter topic. we got heavy fast. But it's sort of similar on the gender issue. A judge ruling against this Wyoming Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority. 6 women in the sorority sued for letting a transgender man who identifies as a woman into the sorority. The judge threw the case out without prejudice the first time, saying that there's no rule that the sorority can't decide what people can choose whatever gender they want, and it's a private institution. And then they brought a case again a different way, and this time the judge threw it out with prejudice, meaning you can't bring it back. And it's dead. I don't know why I wanted to talk about this story, because again, we're stuck on this stuff on both sides. I mean, the sorority suing. Okay, I don't care, honestly. This is not the same as having biological males competing in female sports. Just not the same thing. I guess you could argue, well, it's a he inside a female sorority, so I guess maybe that's the overlap there. But the judge saying you can't, the very fact legally, constitutionally, maybe it's a private organization. It can define gender however it wants, I guess. I don't know. That's a slippery slope. So if I'm a private organization, can I define things in a way that creates really unsafe scenarios for people, for women, and justify that? Could I say that's okay? Because I'm choosing to see it that way. I decide that men who identify as men, but could imagine an alter ego as a woman can now go into women's spaces and stare and glare and get hard-ons if you want. Is that okay? Could do it with kids? I mean, at what point do we say, well, being private isn't the issue? It's this idea that we no longer will retain any sense of everything's relative. There'll be no more absolutes, which, as I said last time, sex is one absolute. You can mess around with it. You can certainly have different preferences and orientations, and you can even wish you were a different one, but it's pretty absolute. Speaking of things that are absolute, in my mind, free speech is. And Donald Trump and the flag burning thing. Now, this one just is pushing my buttons. I don't know. They go too far. And there are some authoritarian tendencies that show up with President Trump. And it's not just Gavin Newsom. There are some things. Then I don't know. Is he really authoritarian? He's on a revenge tour for sure. Well, let's be fair. They beat the crap out of him for 8 years. First, they made up an entire hoax that he was collaborating with the Russians, colluding. And then they used fake information, which they seem to know at the highest levels wasn't very good intelligence, the Steele dossier. And they impeached him twice, brought him down, hammered the crap out of him, destroyed his first term so he couldn't be effective, got him out of office through an election that I'm not going to say was stolen, but it was certainly kind of messed up. Joe Biden campaigned from the basement. COVID gave him a free pass. Could never have. he wasn't as bad as he was at the end, but he was not all there. We know that now. Some of us knew it then. And, you know, he was his whole campaign was just, I'm not Trump, basically. That's the best they could have come up with for not Trump. They come up with somebody better, they might have made it for 2 terms. Then when he's not in office, they go after him legally in every possible way, from raiding his home for documents he has. He's the president, whatever. And they all take him, including Joe Biden, who wasn't the president, and Hillary Clinton, who was only the Secretary of State. So go after them all evenly or don't go after any of them. It was all just set up. The guy gets hammered, beaten up, 95% bad press coverage in the mainstream media for year after year after year, humiliated, laughed at, called every name in the book, sued, charged with everything you can. And then they try to kill him. But I think he's got a little bit of a grudge. I think he's carrying a chip on his shoulder. Yeah, he's on a revenge tour. That said, don't go after people for burning flags. The 1989 Supreme Court, Texas v. Johnson, I think was the case, you know, established that free speech rights. It's an absolute. You can burn a flag. You can show that you can take this. Yes, the American flag is beautiful, sacred. People died for it. My dad won the Distinguished Service Cross, second highest award you can win below the Medal of Honor. I mean, he took the flag seriously. He put his life on the line for others. And, you know, he was in World War II. And that was a brutal ass war in the infantry in Europe. So I get it. But if somebody wants to do it, it's your free speech right. And I hate when the left tried to take away the free speech rights of conservatives and people on the right, or people who didn't agree with them around issues like I just was talking about. If you say the wrong pronouns, we can charge you with a crime. In Britain, they are charging people with crimes for things they say on social media that are politically incorrect. So I don't want Donald Trump charging people with crimes for burning a flag as much as I don't think you should burn a flag. I didn't think you should kneel during the national anthem, but you know what? People can protest how they want. We're strong enough. We're big enough. That's what makes our democracy so powerful. Free speech. I'm like a Justice Black free speech guy, you know? Combat bad speech with more good speech. You know, and the Skokie Nazi marches back in the day, the ACLU back then, the guys who came in, the men and women who came in, a lot of them were Jews, Jewish lawyers who came in and argued for the right legally of the Nazis to protest in Skokie, a very Jewish community, and basically say Jews should be dead. It was the Ku Klux Klan, basically, you know. More speech, counter it with more speech. It won't hold up. You can't executive order away a constitutional protection, but I don't like it. And I don't like their thinly veiled reasoning. We're doing it to, you know, we're not going after people just for burning a flag. It has to be used to incite violence or be in the commission of causing another crime. They're stretching around and bending it around. By that logic, you know, it gets scary, you know, like look at all the other things you could, slippery slope. Again, we'll call this the slippery slope show. Look at all the other things you could do with that. You could, you know, you could say, well, you know, if what you did, and they sort of tried that, like the COVID stuff. If what you're saying with vaccine information, we view as misinformation and it's causing harm and people are taking ivermectin, horse medicine. Oh my God. Sorry, just that one always gets me. There's a lot of medicines we give to people and animals. Horses get it in massive doses. Ivermectin, one of the most widely used drugs, like for malaria in third world countries, one of the safest. The whole horse medicine thing just cracked me up. But again, if you do that, now you're committing a crime. That's bad, you know? No. I mean, and anything used to incite violence could be justified as criminal. So, you know, by that logic, you could argue that's how they could argue Trump did it. What he said on the Capitol on January 6th was led to inciting violence, even if he didn't intentionally mean it to incite the violence, or it was used in the act of stirring people up. I don't like that reasoning. I didn't like it with him then. I don't like it with the flag burning. It goes too far, and everybody should stand up against it. And yes, pro-Trumpers, mega hardcores, you know what? Don't defend the president and go, well, he's only doing it in certain, you know, situations. No, don't mess with the free speech. You wanted it, the other side not to. Now your side doesn't get to. You want to burn a flag? Go burn a flag. I'm not a fan of it. I don't have to like you for it. I can call you names for it, and I should be able to call you names for it. I can't hurt you for it, and I don't think we should arrest you for it. Speaking of other reaches that could be overreaches, the National Guard in D.C. and now maybe Chicago, this crime thing is fascinating to me. I mean, clearly the National Guard is having an impact, and it's hard to, as somebody who lived in D.C. for a long time, and like I said, the crime was really bad then, and I lived in L.A., and I lived outside of Chicago. I see what the crime was like, especially in D.C. And, you know, you can say crime is down in DC. First of all, it's down the last year, but it's not down since 2021. So the last 4 years, it's up. It's just gone down from being up. It's not as high up, I guess is the way to put it. It was higher. It's up from where it was 4 years ago, down from where it was last year. The reality is statistics don't matter. And I'm not blaming Trump for doing this. And the National Guard is an interesting move. And is it political? Absolutely. Is he trying to make a point? Absolutely. He's fighting in a way I've never seen an American executive president, the leader of the executive fight. I think we haven't seen anything like it since the old days, like the Jefferson Madison days. They fought differently then, but that kind of power, like I'm not backing down. And I give him credit for that. But the thing about the crime is this. People can say all they want, the statistics this, the statistics that. Everybody in these cities knows that crime is hugely a risk. People are getting mugged outside, the cars stolen right in front of them outside their offices. And sadly for the press, a lot of reporters are experiencing it. So they're going out to drinks and going, hey, are you okay? Yeah, did you hear what happened to me? Did you hear what happened to her last night? Did you hear that? They got mugged. They got this. They got that. This is horrible. Yeah, what are we going to write? Well, Trump shouldn't be sending in the National Guard. Crime is down. At a certain level, this was like the inflation thing during the election when they kept saying food prices weren't high. Like the economy's great. Bidenomics works. You know, you can't tell people to feel what they don't feel. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way in politics. Doesn't work that way with the economy. Doesn't work that way in personal relationships and feelings, and it certainly doesn't work that way with crime. People feel what they feel, see what they see, experience what they experience. If I were the Democratic mayors, I'd be getting on board. I'd say, let's figure out, and I think the mayor of DC did a decent job of trying to balance that, but I'd be like, let's get on board this. Crime is not okay in our city. And if we need some help, we'll take some help. We'd like to do it ourselves, but we'll work with you, Mr. President, and the National Guard. Crime is unacceptably high. That's the right answer. No, it's not really that bad. It's not really that bad. And you're just doing this to show off and be political. Getting near the end here of my Friday special show. Well, it's not a special show. It's just a Friday show. I want to talk about Gavin Newsom for a minute. I found it so enjoyable to watch him doing these mimics of Donald Trump. Now, if you know what I'm talking about, he tweets like Donald Trump style. Gavin Newsom is running for president, and he's clever. He's doing something Trump did, but something Trump didn't do at the same time. Well, he's not doing something Trump did. I said this right. He's doing one thing Trump did, one thing he's not doing that Trump did. He is realizing the power of really utilizing the social media presence and getting out there and doing it aggressively, in this case, tongue in cheek. I like him mimicking the president. I think it's very funny. I see his his tweets pop up all the time now. He's like, I'm going to do what Trump did. I'm going to get ahead in the viral campaign. And already he's bounced like 8% over with Democrats and Democrat-leaning independents in like 3 months. And these tweets, I'll just read you one if you haven't seen them. And the reason I'm saying this is because Vice President J.D. Vance came out and said, he doesn't think Newsom should be doing it. And of course, that's what he's going to say. But he said, he's smart, though. He said, you can't mimic the master. Like, you can't mimic the master. Trump's the master. And it's a cheap imitation, he said. But I'll give you an example. All caps. He does it in all caps. He signs with his initials. Wow, tomorrow history will be made. Carolyn Levitt will be, and he missed the lowercase, the first half of the name. We'll have no answers for the supposed fake media about California's beautiful maps. People are saying they're the greatest maps ever created, even better than Christopher Columbus. These are the maps California did to redistrict, to battle the Texas redistricting. Donald, quote, the failure, unquote, Trump be warned. Tomorrow may be the worst day of your life, all because you missed the deadline for Liberation Day for America. GCN, Gavin Newsom's initials. I actually think it works. I do think, and again, Newsom jumped in the morning consult, which is a big poll. But Vance is right about one thing. I don't think Vance is right that Vance is right about one thing. That Donald Trump proved that being authentic was key, your authentic self. And I said that when Donald Trump was first running. I was teaching a media class, and I was like, watch this guy. You can laugh at him. You can think he sounds like a fifth grader. You can not know half the time exactly what he's doing or means, but he's real. So he's going to pull off being a billionaire who will be relatable to the working class. They made it really hard for him to do that, but it is, people like he's almost aspirational for them. It's an odd thing. Like he's an elitist, but he doesn't come off as an elite. And I heard somewhere he said something like, I'm just like working class people, except I have more money. And that's why people make fun of how he makes like his gaudy taste with the gold and whatever. He's not like some snooty intellectual elitist. He just has a lot of money, and he's a good businessman. And I think he's an amazing politician, being authentic. So here's the issue. I don't know what authentic is for Gavin Newsom. As I said about Kamala Harris, I don't think anybody knows who Kamala Harris was. I don't think Kamala Harris knows. I think Gavin Newsom knows who he is, but what's the real authentic Gavin Newsom? Like Chris Cuomo, remember on CNN? Used to watch him, and I had interacted with his brother Andrew a few times back in the day. Chris Cuomo, I always felt like it was really fake on CNN, and then the clips would come out of him. Like there was the one with the guy who kind of trolled him in a subway station, and Cuomo went after him, called him the F word. I'll kick the shit out of you, chase him down the steps, whatever. It's like, that's the real Chris Cuomo, not the guy on, the balanced guy who's like pretends not to get worked up. It's like, we should all be calm and not, react with violence. When Chris Cuomo left and went to, left CNN, went to News Nation, he became a different person. I would argue he became the real Chris Cuomo, the one that showed up in videos and tapes and things that were caught on camera off CNN. I don't know who the real Gavin Newsom is. If Gavin Newsom becomes the real Gavin Newsom, he's got a shot. He's smart. He's adept. But right now, he seems to be looking for ways to be what he thinks people will want, that will push him above the other Democrats, which he's doing. But then he's got to win the independents and even some conservatives and some Republicans, or he's certainly got to get more independents and Democrats out to vote for him than for whoever runs after Donald Trump. No, Donald Trump's not going to run for another term, but he's going to threaten to all the way up to the end. I think Gavin Newsom's on to something. I don't mind that he trolls Trump. I think it's kind of funny. We all need to be a little lighter and have a little more fun with this and take down the temperature. But Gavin Newsom needs to figure out who he is. The whole Democratic Party needs to figure out who they are. And they don't know who they are. And I'm not sure that they I'm not sure that they will figure it out. I'm going to end on this. Trump removing the Fed Reserve, or trying to remove Lisa Cook, the first Black female Fed Reserve board member. But here's the thing. I mean, she does a double mortgage, and this seems to be a thing people do. And they went after Trump for inflating property values, even when he maybe inflated them, maybe he didn't, but he certainly did. Mar-a-Lago wasn't worth $18 million, like the judge said. Like, it's a joke. Like, $50 million to buy an empty piece of property, half as good, 10th the size, down the block. They went after him for fraud, so expect him to go after them. But this is fraud. You take out two mortgages saying each one's your primary residence, one in one state, one in another state, months apart. You had to know, she had to know that what she was doing was lying, claiming both would be permanent residents to get better deals. She's a governor of the Federal Reserve of the United States of America. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that and get away with it. It's not okay. Letitia James did the same thing. Not okay. These double mortgages. And now people are saying, well, it's a tricky area. It's not tricky at all. You don't get to claim both places as your primary residence. That's not tax avoidance, which is allowed. That's evasion. It's lying. And when you are an attorney general of a state, or when you are a member of the governors or the board of the Federal Reserve, no, out of your job. I'm sorry. You should walk. You should have to walk. It's not okay. But we're going to see more and more people doing it, I think I have a couple others in the back of my head. I'll bring them up on Monday. And a related point. I didn't get to everything I wanted today, but it's been fun. Thanks for listening. Hope you have a great weekend. Take the temperature down. Have some fun. Go have a conversation with somebody you don't agree with politically and be like, let's not yell. Let's not get mad. Let's just have fun. Let's have a drink and talk about it. I'll make fun of my side if you make fun of yours. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. I'm Rob Nelson. Thanks for watching.
Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker?
It's good to see you. Listen,
If you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together, I know we can find them.
Down is competition in the ratings tab for late night weekend viewers.